What's up, guys? This is Bolt Struck with Duck, and today we are listing the 9 best quarterbacks in the NFL after Justin Herbert. But no, of course I'm joking about that. Hopefully after this next season, that doesn't sound like such a crazy take, but we are listing the top 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. So doing Colin Cowherd style, top 10, hat forward. So oddly enough, my toughest decision on this list was picking quarterback number 10. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and give an honorable mention to Brock Purdy. I'm not a huge Brock Purdy guy. I don't think he has the physical skills. He's on a loaded roster. He easily has the capacity to jump way into the top 10, possibly, top 5, top 7. It's just one of those things, like, it is hard to fairly judge him. That's why I don't want to definitely say he's not top 10. I don't want to definitely say he is top 10. He's just a tough one for me. And so that segues me into my actual number 10 quarterback, Jordan Love. I say this with hesitation. This was my least favorite pick on this list that I'm the least confident in. Pretty similar to Brock Purdy, but just more in the sense that we just haven't seen enough. This is totally a projection. And I know I have him top 5, but I really am lower on him than most people are. I might be just getting swayed by all the Jordan Love that he's getting, no pun intended, plus the fact that he just signed that contract. I might be getting swayed. I might be getting a little push to put him in the top 10. We've definitely not seen enough, but it's the fact that he doesn't have a top 5 roster, like a Brock Purdy. He did win a playoff game. He does have a good coach, but it's hard to put him. I would definitely not put him higher than number 10. By the end of next season, he could be as low as 15. In my opinion, it's hard to tell if he's a slightly above average quarterback or a top 10 quarterback. And number 9, this is where it gets a little spicy. This is a hot take, but I 100% believe it. Kyler Murray. I don't know how he became so underrated so fast, but a healthy Kyler Murray is one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the league. Just really, really physically gifted in terms of running the ball, throws a great ball. He's just so athletic, so quick. Before he got hurt, they were in the playoffs. He's, I think, just a really underrated quarterback at this point, and I think he's going to shock a lot of people this year with kind of a non-stellar Cardinals roster. Number 8, kind of a safe pick, Jared Goff. He's everything you want in a quarterback aside from the mobility. He's a great leader, seems like a great person, really good arm, really good size. Lions obviously have a talented team now. Dan Campbell seems like a competent head coach. He's put up really good numbers his career. He's never proven that he could be a top 5 quarterback, but he's also never proven he's been worse than a top 12 quarterback. So I think right here at 8 is pretty perfect. And number 7, another guy that's gotten a little underrated. This might be a hot take, but I have Dak Prescott. Similar to Jared Goff, he's got all the intangibles. He seems like a great guy. He's a good leader. No drama. He's more physically talented than Jared Goff, which is why I find it weird that people easily put Jared Goff in the top 10 now, but not Dak Prescott. I know he has some playoff meltdowns, and Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl, came close with the Lions last year. I get it. But individually, Dak Prescott does, at least in the regular season, everything you'd want in a quarterback. And you can't put all the blame on the playoff flounders. The Cowboys over the last, whatever it is, decade and a half, couple decades, have not had success in the playoffs. I don't think that rests solely on Dak. He's a very, very talented quarterback. People forget he was top 3, top 5 MVP discussion throughout the season. Might not have finished like that, but throughout the season, definitely an MVP candidate player, and I think he's a great quarterback. So number 6, I have CJ Stroud. This is another weird one, another player I didn't like putting so high. Obviously, he had a great rookie year. But it was 1 year, right? It's too hard to put someone in the top 5 like people are doing after one great year. Because I think that Texans team is more loaded than people realize because they hit on a lot of these draft picks recently. So a bunch of these guys are kind of no names, no offense, especially because the Texans haven't been a great franchise in a while, and they've had a lot of controversy with the Deshaun Watson thing. But it's like new quarterback, new weapons. I think the team is more talented than people realize, so I'm not going to put him in the top 5. I think by the end of this year, he could easily be top 5, but we just don't know. There's just not enough data, but seems like he's going to be a really good quarterback. So, top 5. I have, and this is going to be a surprise, but I have Joe Burrow. Look, guys, health matters. If we were doing an NBA draft, NBA fantasy draft this year, I'd take Kawhi Leonard in the top 10, but health matters, right? If you were assuming everyone's healthy, Kawhi Leonard is always, one of the greatest basketball players in the world. So is Joe Burrow when he's healthy for football, but he's not always healthy. And people just seem to ignore 2 facts about Joe Burrow. Aside from the health, people are starting to talk about that. He is always a slow starter. He has typically a horrendous first few weeks of the season. And I don't know where this narrative came from that Joe Burrow is clutch, but he has not played, in my opinion, any good playoff games. He's been carried in the playoffs like crazy. Go check out Joe Burrow's stats in the playoffs. I don't know where this narrative came from that he plays well in the postseason. This is why I'm not a team wins, team success guy, is people look at, their Super Bowl trip, these playoff wins, and have him ahead of our guys like Justin Herbert. And it's like Joe Burrow helped during the regular season, but he was not responsible for their playoff success. He's been mediocre at best in the playoffs. He hasn't been healthy. He's a slow starter. And I think, he's immensely talented, but any higher than 5 seems like you're ignoring big red flags there. And at 4, same draft class, our guy, Justin Herbert. I do have Justin Herbert at number 4 for kind of those reasons I just mentioned, the anti-Joe Burrow. I know Herbert had a little bit of injuries last year, but he tends to play through his injuries more, tends to be healthier. I think the only reason he sat the rest of the season last year was because the season was over. But Justin Herbert has everything you want. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the arm, which are all better than Burrow's, right? He's stronger, he's faster, he's bigger, he's got a better arm. He's a really good guy. Players love him. He seems to be stepping forward in terms of being a vocal leader more this season. And Joe Burrow has had more stability, and Justin Herbert's had a lot of weirdness. Yes, he's had talented players, but obviously the coaching has been weird. Just the way he came into the league was weird. People already forget this guy has the greatest rookie season of any quarterback ever, and arguably top 3 greatest first 4 complete years in the NFL individually, which again, I'm not a team wins guy, so that's pretty much the most important thing. People talk about the lack of playoff success. Justin Herbert did not choke that playoff game last year. His offense put up 30 points, missed a field goal in that second half. Defense fell apart. And again, if you want to blame Justin Herbert for not putting up more points than that, Joe Burrow does not average 30 points a playoff game. I hate to keep picking on Joe Burrow. I do think he's a great quarterback, but it's just the fact that there's all these double standards in this team game that happen to go against Justin Herbert. And the way I would look at it is, aside from the people I'm going to mention, ahead of Justin Herbert, these top 3, if you could 1-for-1 trade a quarterback, if you're the general manager, all of the quarterbacks I've listed already and didn't make the top 10, I think you would trade for Justin Herbert in a heartbeat. The one exception being Joe Burrow, But even, again, with the health risk, I think secretly, the Bengals GM would think about it. I don't think he'd do it, but besides Joe Burrow, I think everyone else, if you had the same salary, I think you would 1-for-1 trade it, and most teams would throw in at least a first-round pick to trade their quarterback for Justin Herbert right now. All right, so who are the top 3 quarterbacks I have ahead of Justin Herbert right now? So number 3, I got to go Josh Allen. Josh Allen is, to me, just Justin Herbert pre-Justin Herbert. Josh Allen has the arm, the size, the mobility, but it's the fact that the Bills actually let him run the ball. He's not afraid to get hurt, so he's a bruiser. He's got more running versatility than Justin Herbert does. And he's just more experienced, right? He's been in the league longer. I think Justin Herbert can surpass Josh Allen, but I think Josh Allen has earned a top 3 spot. Just super versatile quarterback. And speaking of versatile, my number 2 is Lamar Jackson. I was not a Lamar hater for a while, but a Lamar doubter, because I don't think quarterback rushing stats should count nearly as much as quarterback passing stats. But I also don't think Lamar is just a running back. Is Lamar as talented passing the football as Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow? No, but he's clearly a much better runner. And, he's so dynamic. I think the MVPs speak for themselves. He's his own system. He does have the weird playoff moments as well. But again, it is a team sport, so he has played semi-poorly individually in the playoffs, but I don't think you can weigh that completely against him. He's still young-ish. He can still develop. He can still get better. Obviously, his playoff and Super Bowl window is still there, so I don't want to hold the playoffs against him too much. Just really dynamic player. If you would have asked me last year, 2 years ago, I probably would have had him closer to the 7-8 range, but he's just proved he can be consistently dynamic. And then number 1, you guys probably guessed it, but it's going to be Bo Nix next year. No, of course not. The Broncos are going to suck next year. But it's obviously Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to say much more. He's earned that spot. But, don't get cocky. Let's see if Herbert and Harbaugh can go for it. But so that's my top 10 list plus my honorable mention. Couple players that stick out that I didn't mention. Matt Stafford is probably the one that came to mind. I just think I've never been a Matt Stafford fan. I think he's always been consistent and good. I don't think he's ever been excellent. He's always had great weapons around him. In LA, he's had arguably a top 2-3 coach in the league. And then now just with his age, I don't think he deserves a top 10 spot. Again, part of this is projecting. So I just think with his age, he's been dinged up a little bit. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback anymore. And most of these guys on the top 10 list have the capacity to be a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I don't think for the rest of Matt Stafford's career, you would ever think that he could be a top 3 quarterback in the league again. So I just don't have him in the top 10. Tua, Jalen Hurts, Tua, I think, since you're probably Chargers fans watching this, we all think he's a game manager. I think anybody with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and I think Mike McDaniel is much better as a head coach than people think. I just think that system is too easy to thrive in. It's like a Brock Purdy thing, but with, not as talented as the 49ers, but Tua also has much less success than Brock Purdy and the 49ers. So I don't have him in the top 10. Jalen Hurts, I think, got carried by a fantastic O-line. Stats are inflated by their tush-push thing, and he's just only had one good year. Also, side note, that Super Bowl performance, I don't think people watched. He was not better than Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. He had that one long bomb to, I forget who it was, but that one long bomb, and just, I don't get it. If you watch that play, The cornerback did a horrible job of locating that ball. That ball should have easily been picked. And if you take that play out, he has horrible stats in that game. Not to mention the game-losing fumble. I just didn't think he played well in that game if you watched it, so I don't know where that narrative came from. I think it was box score watchers. But, I mean, we'll see how he does next year without Jason Kelsey. But again, he's had a great O-line. He's had really good, talent just across the board. And really only one good year and then a bunch of mediocre years. So those guys just out of my top 10. But let me know in the comments, what do you think I got right? What do you think is my worst take on this list? And tell me your top 10 in the comments below. Make sure to like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more Chargers content. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.